In this video we will see how we use the Submit Record Separately option in Workflow and how do we use the Iterate option in Workflow task. Let's start with the first part, using Submit Record Separately option in Workflow. Submit record separately is useful only in cases where you have a form multi-row control in your form. Here I have an Add Multiple Expense form which has a form multi-row control added which has two controls, expense amount and expense details. Let's start by adding a workflow to this form. I will add a workflow Add Multiple Expenses and open this. Click on the Edit Workflow icon. Here you can see this Submit Record Separately option. Let's select this option and save this workflow. What this property will do is, depending on the number of sections added in the form multi-row control, that many number of times this workflow will get executed parallelly and each execution will have individual form multi-row section values. Controls outside form multi-row will have same values for each execution. Let's add a Update Sheet task to add expense details to sheet. Add a task name. Here I have an expenses sheet with name, expense amount and expense detail to capture expense information. Select Expenses Sheet, select Insert Record option. For the name column, let's give a unique name for name control which is name 2. For expense amount and expense detail column, since it is added inside form multi-row control, we will have to reference using multi-row control unique name of corresponding controls. Click on Done. Here we can add multiple tasks depending on your use case that will be called multiple times based on number of section of form multi-row added. I have added only one task for now and our workflow is configured. Let's link the workflow with the Submit button. Click on Preview, add name, John, and add expenses and submit this. Once we submit this, our workflow will be executed 2 times for 2 sections of form multi-row added. Here you can see 2 rows are added in the expenses sheet. Here name column value is repeating as the name control is outside form multi-row control whereas 2 sections of expense amount and expense details are different which we inputted. This is how we use Submit Records separately in Workflow. Now let's move to the next part, how to use the Iterate option in Workflow tasks. Let's open previously configured workflow. Let's remove the Submit Records Separately option and save this workflow. Open the previously configured workflow task. Point to note here is that the Iterate option is task specific. Let's enable this Iterate this task option. Here I want to iterate on controls added inside form multi-row control, so I will have to add all the controls added in form multi-row control which I want to use in my Update Sheet task. Here I have added expense amount and expense details. Another important point to note here is group data source accepts list type control and all the controls we have here should have the same list size. Else it will iterate according to the largest list size among these controls. All controls inside form multi-row automatically become list type due to add more option in form multi-row control. Click Next and all other options are as configured earlier. Let's run this. Add name and expense details and submit this. Here you can see the 2 rows added with the corresponding expense amount and expense details inputted. Using Iterate option workflow tasks we achieved the same result as we got earlier for Submit Records Separately option. Only difference between the 2 approaches is the Iterate option. We have to enable it for each individual task while Submit Records Separately is at workflow level. Let's take another example of using the Iterate option without form multi-row option. I have another form called Add Expenses for multiple users. Here I have a multi-select drop-down to select multiple names which I have applied a static formula for displaying drop-down options. And expense name and expense details control to capture expense information. Let's add a workflow to this screen and name it Add Expenses. Select Update Sheet task, name it Add Expenses. Here let's enable the iteration and select multi-select drop-down which is of list type having unique name select names. Here select Sheet Name, Expenses and select Insert Record option. Name column we will add select names which is a unique name for multi-select drop-down which have names. Since we are iterating on this control, based on the number of values selected for this drop-down this task will run that many number of times each will have individual value for this control. Add unique names of expense amount and expense details for respective columns. Click Done and our workflow is configured. Let's link this workflow to the Submit button and click on Preview. Select all the names and add expense amount and expense details. Let's submit this. Since 4 values of drop-down were selected, here you can see these 4 different rows being added with respective names: Michael, David, John and Jack, and all have the same expense amount and expense details. This is how we use the Iterate option in workflow tasks. Thank you for watching this video. For more videos, visit our YouTube page.